Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another King's Choice how-to video. Today we're going to be going over Reap What You Sow. Reap What You Sow is a little bit more of an involved event, so let's just jump straight into it here. There is an achievements tab that you can get bonus items for just by playing. Bonus items are very similar to those that are on other event boards that have the achievements, and then what you're competing for is individually some prestige chests, and then for your alliance you are competing for a Sunrise Earl, which will be, of course, the Duke version of that when the event goes cross. Related to that, other good things to note for items that you're competing for. Again, Book of Sages, super important because they are becoming less and less common as they release new events and continue to refresh and update old ones. Every rank receives at least one Book of Sages, but of course the best being the 5 for being the MVP for the alliance that places first, along with the Earl title. So let's jump into what this might look like. When we enter the event here, you're going to see some icons down at the bottom here, additional icons I should say, and those are delegate and the intel records. For delegations, you're garrisoning your knights. So when you decide what knights you want to garrison, it's going to give you various buffs based upon what knight you decide to garrison. So if I garrison my top 4, you're going to see that the total power of any dispatched knights is going to increase by 26,000. And then the exploration EXP buff that I'm going to get is 20% right off the rip. So if you dispatch those, your exploration buff will boost right to 20%. If you hit the marker, of course, total power. And then that is, I guess, the list of total power that you need for the associated exploration buff. So now that those are assigned, what the dispatched knight buff will do is when you say click on a tile here, you have the option to garrison additional knights. So if you garrison an additional knight, I'm going to take one of my mid guys here. So let's take Hypatia and garrison her. She's going to get a buff that is, or should at least get a buff based upon the knights that I have deployed for defense. I don't think it immediately shows that she gets that buff, but when somebody goes to attack this tile, then she should have that additional buff. Other things to keep in mind are synergies. This is an event based on synergies. You'll see that each land tile is a little bit different. Right now, currently, there are crops or trees, I guess, on this forest tile. There being trees on the forest tile means that this player here is going to get an additional bonus synergy buff. And then if any associated tiles that are related to it are placed adjacent to it, so grass, berries, mushrooms, trees, in this instance, you'll get an additional buff for your points based upon how many tiles are adjacent to the one that you planted. So on the grass tile, I don't know if it actually shows if, yeah, I don't see my synergies there. So what we'll do is we'll jump into some explorations here so we can get into it. So the main goal here is to explore. Exploring gets you various tiles that you can place on your board with the plant option. So exploring is super simple. You just click it, it randomly chooses a tile for when you receive it, and then it shows you what your synergy bonuses are. So this one can have up to 3 synergy bonuses. So when this is placed on a reeds or lotus tile, you get a 10% buff. And then when there are 2 types of reeds or lotuses on adjacent tiles, you get that additional 10% buff. It also gives you a crop buff when it's adjacent to storks as well. So I'm going to do another exploration here. So I got storks now, funny that. And then yeah, each one tells you what it's good on for a tile, and then what its buff will be received based upon what adjacent tiles it's next to. The quality of your tiles will change and go up the more you explore and the more you raise your exploration level. So the more you raise your exploration level, the more the probabilities will change, and the more higher grade tiles you'll get to place. So we're going to continue here, do another exploration. I'm just going to do a few more explorations here. I'm just going to rip through them real fast so that I can show you tile placement. So we're going to do this and a few more times. Eventually, you'll see down there it says exploring 60 times unlocks your skips. Essentially, you can skip all of those exploration animations and just click through a whole bunch of times for as many exploration chances that you have, and you can skip that whole animation and just go from this to the next one to the next one to the next one immediately without having, like I said, to go through the animation each and every time. All right, so now that we've got a whole bunch of tiles that we can place, let's click on plant here. So it's going to show you all the different crops that you have currently available to plant on your tiles here. That, and in the other tab, are any items that you may have received during your explorations. Now, these are traps. Traps are just deployable. They can go onto any tile, and then it shows you how many traps are on each tile, and those traps will reduce a attacking knight's health based upon how many traps there are. Traps will eventually be used, and your tile will eventually become vacant of traps. So be mindful of that. I suggest every tile has at least 1 trap on it, just to give you that extra little bit of assurance for defense. So in each of your crop cards here, it's going to tell you, if you click on the little information icon that was right there, what tile it should be placed on to receive a bonus, as well as what needs to be placed around it in order to get the synergy bonus. So for grass, it requires it to be on either a field, sand, or dirt, and then sand tiles. So right now there is a field tile right there. We're gonna place it, and then, like I said before, the things that can go around it to give it that extra synergy bonus are more grass, berries, mushrooms, or trees on the adjacent tiles. Now, there's already a forest here, so I can't place any trees, but on these 2 sand tiles, I should be able to, if I have any mushrooms. I don't have any mushrooms, so let's just place another grass just right on top of it. Let's do another one here. So there is currently a swamp deployed on this tile. To get the bonus, there needs to be reeds or lotuses on adjacent tiles for the synergy. Now, I have both reeds and lotuses available to place, except this tile needs, essentially I need another swamp tile to place either of those. So turtles being there is kind of in the way, so I can't activate the synergy there. A lot of these tiles already look like they have their synergy bonuses activated, so I'm not going to do a whole lot of screwing around here. What I am going to do, though, is there is a trees currently deployed on this forest tile. So grass, berries, mushrooms, or trees on adjacent tiles. There is another forest tile here that I can put a berries on if I wanted to, because I do get the tile bonus, and then placing it beside the trees should give me the synergy bonus for it too. I'm not sure why it didn't. Not sure why it didn't give me this bonus. Because when I was checking in other window there, it said that I could place this on a forest tile and receive the bonus. Anyway, we will keep going. But that is it for placement. Essentially, what you want to do is just make sure to activate as many synergies on as many tiles as possible to get the maximum amount of points available. The other mechanics here are, first, the blessing statues. Blessing statues will get you various modifications to your tiles. So this one adds grass and mushrooms to swamp tiles. So you can add grass or mushrooms to swamps. This one here is you can add berries to land tiles and trees to sand tiles. This one here, you can add willows and lotuses to forest tiles. So it gives you a little bit more customization to try and get those synergy values. You can choose to upgrade each steadily, or you can choose to focus on one, and then when you uncover another, focus on that one, and then etc., etc. The other one is expanding your land. So expanding your land requires a certain amount of tiles here, which are these. You get your tile fragments sometimes, not all the time, when you explore. So this one requires 20 tile fragments total. We need, what, 8 more? I've got plenty, so I'm just going to go ahead and finish that tile. It drops down a new piece of land there, and we can start deploying on that as well. You can, if you want to, as a leader or deputy, mark certain tiles. When you mark tiles, it'll actually indicate that you have a marked tile and will draw your alliance's attention to that tile. So for example, I want this tile developed, so I've marked it. I've already placed my other 9 tile fragments on it. Doing so will also show you that after this tile is developed, this is how many points you're going to get towards the event totals. So when you build out tiles, you get additional points. So building out tiles is just as important as deploying your various crops onto the tiles. So from there, the last, I believe, mechanic is, of course, looting. Now, looting, you can actually jump into another alliance's territory, and if there are any ready crops, you can actually deploy attacking knights and attempt to steal said crops. So this one, fairly simple. And then it shows you how many points you get towards your total, and you can keep deploying your knights, even the same knights, over and over and over again until they are seriously injured. Your seriously injured knights tab is over here. When you get a seriously injured knight, they are no longer deployable, and you'll have to use the healing potion in order to revive them or let them automatically recover in the time limit here. This time limit, I think, is 3 hours per refresh. So try and get in. If you're going to attack, try and get in as many attacks as you can prior to that 3-hour mark to get your injured knights regenerated, essentially. Now, you can continue to attack the same tile and get smaller amounts of event points per, because they're essentially looting available crops. So once a crop limit has been reached, you'll no longer be able to raid that tile. But that doesn't mean that you can't go on and raid other tiles. You can raid as many tiles as you want for as many loot tools as you have. You get your loot tools randomly as you're exploring. They will show up as little birdcage icons here when you go on the explorations. So when it says extra gains here, right now I got some stones, and if I were to have gotten a loot tool, that little birdcage icon will show right beside it. Do a couple more explorations. So right here, this is the loot tool here, and then it just get it, like I said, randomly as you're exploring. And look at that, I got 2 in a row. So when you're in your plant window, you can also see how many event items you have. Excellent hourglasses you can actually get from the gold store. They decrease the amount of time required for your crops to harvest. Same with the legendary hourglass. The legendary hourglass is a bigger decrease of time. And then your blessing trees are these guys here. Blessing trees will help adjacent crops produce event points, and each blessing tree can only affect the same crop once. But if there were another blessing tree, say right here, then this crop here would get the blessing tree bonus both from this blessing tree and the one that was deployed right here. So while each one can only affect the tiles around it once, the effects can stack. And then that should wrap that one up. Just keep exploring, using your stamina, planting your tiles, your crops. All of your crops will eventually time out themselves. So everything will auto collect. You don't have to remember to come back in and collect your crops after they finish developing. Everything will just automatically do it for you. So there is very much a whole lot of set it and forget it that you can do. And then that's it for that one. Thanks for coming by. That was another King's Choice how-to video for Reap What You Sow. Feel free to leave a comment below. Any questions? We'll do our best to try and help you out best we can. And we will see you in the next one. Thanks, guys.